What is this? They're gonna make a whole feature film out of just one chapter in the book? Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, Precious.
The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, released in 2014 and is directed by Peter Jackson. We all know that already. He's directed all these Middle-earth films, and one trilogy was great and the other one just was stretched so frickin' thin. And this movie, like the last one, is starring Ian McKellen, Martin Freeman, Richard Armitage, Evangeline Lilly, Lee Pace, Luke Evans, Benedict Cumberbatch for like 5 minutes, James Nesbitt, Kate Blanchett, Ian Holm, Christopher Lee, Hugo Weaving, and Orlando Bloom, who again should not be in this film, but because he's the cool part from Lord of the Rings, let's throw him in here. When we last left our company, the dragon Smaug had escaped from the Lonely Mountain, and he's gonna wreak havoc on Lake Town. But surprisingly, he's taken out by Bard, and so now the movie, The Battle of the Five Armies, can begin. Which it's just that. It's 5 different armies coming to the Lonely Mountain, all taking claim for the gold that's inside. Yeah, that's all the plot synopsis there is. It's this one big, gigantic battle. They try to put in exposition and to kind of build up to the battle itself. But this whole series of events is like the last 2 chapters of The Hobbit. 2 chapters out of a book that's like that thick. And with all the stuff that we've had before, we have 2 chapters left. So we have to stretch this out into at least a 2.5-hour film. How can we do that? Go. Well, I know one thing that definitely stretches 2 chapters of a book into a feature-length film. Let's combine it with Dune, and let's have snake worms come out from the ground and take out everyone. So if you haven't watched my previous Hobbit reviews, let me just give you some insight here. I'm a huge Hobbit fan. I love Middle-earth. I love Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, the films are fantastic. I am very excited to check those ones out next time. But The Hobbit was always like one of my favorite books. And I remember watching the cartoon, the 1977 cartoon, all the time. I just love this story. It's a hero's journey. Bilbo, who is our protagonist, or should be our protagonist, our hero, starts off in his nice, peaceful area. And then he has a call to adventure from an old wise man, being Gandalf. And he sets out on an adventure, going to an unknown realm, passing the threshold, getting to his darkest hour, and then makes it all the way back to where he originally started from. But he is changed. He goes through a transfiguration. He goes through an evolution where he's not the same person that he was when he originally started this whole journey. And the first Hobbit film felt like it was going to be that. We felt like we were staying with Bilbo, and the main focus of this film and this trilogy was going to be on Bilbo Baggins and his adventure. But then the studio was like, no, can we stretch this out into a trilogy and not do just 2 movies? Can we make it into 3? So Peter Jackson was like, okay, let's add in all this extra shit, and let's just totally forget that this film is called The Hobbit. And that's the main problem with the last 2 chapters of this trilogy. It forgets it's called The Hobbit. It should have been called Lord of the Rings, The Battle of the Five Armies, or Lord of the Rings, The Desolation of Smaug. Because when it comes to Bilbo, these films don't care. Especially when we get into this film, because in the book, The Battle of the Five Armies, Bilbo gets clunked on the head. We don't really see a lot of the battle in the book. And because the narrative of the book is in Bilbo's perspective, when he gets clonked on the head, the battle is over. He wakes up and the whole battle is done, and then we see everyone who has died from it. And a lot more people die in the book than they do in the film. And it's just sad, because this film focuses more on Thorin. This is a film about Thorin. This should have been Thorin, The Battle of Five Armies. And I gotta be honest, his whole journey of having dragon sickness, or gold sickness, or whatever bullshit they were trying to sell to me, I'm like, come on. He's a frickin' dick. Could we just accept that, please? Don't try to give him like a disease to where you can be like, oh no, I was under the gold spell. I'm not really a dick, I promise. Because they want to give Thorin and the dwarves that hero moment, that hero charge from like when Aragorn came in with the dead army in The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. They wanted that moment for him. So how can we not have Thorin and company in the battle for the majority of the film? Well, let's have him have gold dragon sickness. What the fuck ever. And then when they finally do get in the battle, not all of the dwarves are actually part of the final battle with the white orc. We only have like 4 or 5. And then Bilbo kind of gets in there and then gets clunked on the head. And then again, we forget it's about Bilbo, because it's not. I will say, though, this film is more entertaining than Desolation of Smaug. There is a closure. This is the final chapter, so there is an ending. It's just it's all climax. Whereas I had blue balls with Desolation of Smaug. There was no resolution to it. Here, it's just all, huh, and there was no warming up to it. It was just, there you go. Which in those situations, it's like, yeah, well, you know, it's okay. At least it happened. At least it ended. And yes, for those of you wondering, this last piece of dialogue we just had has more than one meaning. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The best parts of these films is Martin Freeman as Bilbo. I think he started off fantastic when the story actually focused on Bilbo and Bilbo's journey. It's just in the last two films, especially in this one, it's not about Bilbo. And Martin Freeman is there giving a terrific performance, one that is so heartwarming and one that I care about. I'm like, yes, he's an adorable character. He's a great character. He's always trying to do the right thing. I love this guy. Why can't we focus on this guy? And then we also have Keeley falling in love again with Evangeline Lilly, who I don't even remember her name because I don't care. Even that whole storyline didn't have a nice resolution, because all of a sudden he was there and then he's not, and then she's sad, and then, okay, what happened to her? Did she take the boat and go into the west like the other elves? Probably. Also, this movie kind of neuters itself. Like, a lot more dwarves survive in this film than they do in the book. Like, the book, I want to say like 6 of the 13 die, maybe 7. Here, it's just 3. Just 3 of them. Like, what? Come on. No. Even though that's more characters than, say, Lord of the Rings, when we have that fellowship, only one of them dies in that film. This trilogy started great. I love the introduction of Bilbo when we focused on Bilbo, and then it just petered out because we tried to do all the appendices from The Return of the King and all of the Gandalf stuff and looking at the Necromancer. And it's like, okay, maybe that's a big deal for the whole Middle-earth, but in terms of this story, it doesn't play into anything. So your whole journey, Gandalf, I could give 2 shits about. Or couldn't give 2 shits about. However you say that frickin' line. Because they go through all that action, and there's Radagast the Brown, who I haven't even mentioned from the first 2 Hobbit films, because I don't care. And they're all talking about how this is important. But then Gandalf's like, no, I must go to the Lonely Mountain to stop what's about to happen there. So this whole thing is just completely forgot about, and then we go back to the Lonely Mountain because Gandalf's like, oh, that's where all the important stuff's happening. Then why the fuck show this other stuff? If I could give you a recommendation, don't watch this trilogy. Just don't do it. If you are curious and want to see a film version of The Hobbit, check out the cartoon from 1977. That is fantastic. It focuses on Bilbo. It is Bilbo's journey throughout the entire thing. I'm going to give The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, 2 out of 5 Blu-rays. Alright everyone, we have gone there and back again, and we have put the Hobbit trilogy aside. Now we're going to focus on the stuff that put Middle-earth on the map when it came to pop culture. We're going to look at the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So guys, have you seen the Battle of the Five Armies? What did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, then comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I'm releasing next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time with my journey into the Lord of the Rings. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.